Okay, so welcome everybody to today's presentation. Just a few housekeeping items I wanted to talk about. We are having our 30th anniversary celebration next Thursday, December 4th. It is either in person in Thunder Bay or it is online. There's an online option. So if you are interested, please check out our website, pero.ca, after I could put the information in the chat. It's a great way we have a great guest speaker and awards and entertainment and all that kind of stuff. So please go to our website, check that out and register either in person or online. And then any other kind of information. We've got some biz camps happening. We have Elevate that's open right now. Karen, it closes.
It closes right before we go on holidays at the end of December.
Okay, so check that out if you your sales are at 250 and want to get up to
Over 1 million in sales, and it opens in the actual course takes place starting in January, runs till the end of June. It's about 2 days a week, or sorry, a month. And most of the sessions are an hour and a half to 2 hours long, minus the first one, which is 4 hours. She does provide one-on-one coaching as well as doing an open session once a month. Note that if you were to pay for this on your own, it costs about $15,000 and we charge $199, kind of subsidized a bit. So you might want to take advantage of it while you can, and she will work with you on everything from building your systems and functions, HR, finances, anything that we're marketing to help you scale. So she has a whole system, but it encompasses everything.
Great. Thank you. So, yeah, so check out our website. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome our guest speaker and a partner that's been working with us for a number of years, and we are happy to have you back, Dan. So I'm just going to introduce. So Dan Munshaw is currently the Business Development Advisor at OECM and former manager in supply at the City of Thunder Bay. Boasts over 40 years of procurement expertise spanning government, mining, and manufacturing. His leadership extends to instructing supply courses, past board chair, SCMA Ontario, and OPBA Education Committee member, and is the founder of the Lakehead Purchasing Consortium. So thanks, Dan, for coming, and we're so happy to have you here.
Oh, excellent. Thanks, Lori. And I want to put in a plug for Pero. As Lori mentioned, my background is public procurement, and Pero has been here to support me and the members of Pero and the work that they've done and the work that Pero suppliers have done has been very, very valuable and very much appreciated. So certainly membership in Pero strongly supported, and it's a wonderful organization helping to bring information to me as a person spending public taxpayer monies. What a wonderful organization. And I'm thrilled to be here today and thrilled to continue to build on my long-standing relationship with Pero. With that, I'd like to kind of share information today. I'm a well-seasoned public procurement practitioner, and also have a lot of experience in the private sector as well. And I want to share some information today, but I also want to make today's session one of engagement. A number of you may have questions, maybe not questions now, but as we get into today's session, it may spark questions. It's a safe environment. There are no bad questions. Please take the time to throw a question in chat if you're not comfortable in speaking. Raise your hand or jump in at any point. So I want today's, I'm hoping that today's session could be interactive. I'll share information that you may find helpful today. But at the same time, I'm here to respond to questions that people may have. And so we've labeled today's session Introduction to Public Procurement, because one of the things that I've heard, especially from newer entrepreneurs and business startup, is what is public procurement? How do I do business with government? And I'm often today's session when I speak about government, I'm going to use that term as a much more holistic term. Government meaning federal government, government meaning provincial government, and strongly encourage government also being your regional government. You've got municipalities in your area, you've got cities, communities in your area, you've got school boards in your area. And so when I use the term government, I'm going to speak about that in a broader context. And if people have questions, certainly I'm not an expert at the federal and provincial level. I've got good working knowledge at that level, but I have well seasoned skills at a broader public sector level. So that's what today's session is a little bit about. My background comes from being the supply chain manager for the city of Thunder Bay. Next slide, Karen, please.
Oh,
Yeah, Karen, next slide.
Oh, it's not moving. Wait 1 second.
Okay.
It shows me it's moved. Hold on. What are we doing here?
Just while we're waiting for technology to catch up, I'll speak to the slide. One of the things where I'm at today, I have retired from the city of Thunder Bay, but I was brought on board by a provincial group buying agency called OECM, and it stands for Ontario Education Collaborative Marketplace. And what it is a procurement operation somewhat on steroids. So at the city, but at a regional level, and with this new organization called OECM, we do group buying at a provincial level. And who we are in terms of we're a nonprofit organization. We have over 1,500 customers that we buy on behalf of. We have 95 contracts in place for various goods and services. We do business with over 550 suppliers. And our spend, our lifetime to date spend is over $6 billion. So we manage and influence the spend of a lot of money. And so when we talk about public procurement, it is scalable so that when we talk about regional procurement, municipalities and school boards and colleges and universities, a major amount of their monies are spent in that community. And then when we look at provincial organizations, now we're looking at a much broader base of customers and a much larger base of spend. And certainly when we step up to the federal government, we are looking at a much broader base of spend yet still. So we migrate from locally from tens of millions to hundreds of millions. Provincially, we scale up from hundreds of millions into billions, and certainly at a federal level, spend is in the billions. So hearing these numbers and thinking about many of the members of PARO, look at this as an opportunity. Is it easy to do business with government? It probably isn't. I'm choosing my words carefully. We are filled with rules and we're filled with processes for a number of different reasons. But in return, the amount of money that we spend is quite significant. And I would strongly encourage you to consider doing business with government as a portion or part of your portfolio. So that's a little bit about who OECM is. It's a provincial group buying organization. And the concept is simple, is let's consolidate and aggregate and leverage spend on behalf of our members. An exciting offering that I would like to extend is that OECM is a nonprofit organization. There is no fee for membership. And as a member of PARO, we would like to extend free memberships to each and every one of you that are participating today, and to any members of PARO as well. So if you're looking for computers, if you're looking for custodial cleaning supplies, if you're looking for stationery products, we have master agreements in place direct with manufacturers. So you would be buying directly from Dell at phenomenal discounts. So we would like to make our contracts available to through PARO to all of PARO members as well. So certainly to look at reducing your operating costs, take a look at that. There is some benefit to that, and that's an extension that we would like to offer. So kind of with that, Karen, I see you're playing. Could we try and move to the next slide? Thank you. When I speak about public procurement, again, I'm going to use a generic term, but when you think about public procurement, there probably is not an area that we do not touch. At the City of Thunder Bay, one of the exciting things that my procurement team really enjoyed was every week we were buying something that we had never done before. And that really excited, the buying team. After you become familiar with buying, then you get excited about, hey, I've never done this before. And, some of the things that we're buying and that is being bought through public procurement is things like firearms, ammunition, body armor. If we take a look at the OPP, or if we take a look at the Canada's military, there is uniforms, there is specialty military pieces that have to be bought. And when you break those down, it could be fix and repair of uniforms. So you may offer dry cleaning, laundry services. You may offer seamstress operations. These are all needed services that can be scaled up at most any level. So whether you're a small startup company or whether you're a very large manufacturing or large company, we're interested in all of these. And with what's going on in public procurement today, we are very interested in sourcing, onshore sourcing, and I'll get more into details. But when you think about it, the GO trains at a federal level, they're buying grain cars. There is no end of foods that are being bought locally, provincially, federally. There is grass cutting services, snow plowing services, grass cutting equipment, snow plow equipment. For those that appears almost anywhere in Ontario, we're in for a weather watch today and over the next couple of days. So there will be a fleet of snow clearing equipment out. All of that had to be bought. All of that is being serviced. There are wear parts. There are capital equipment, and all of that is being bought through public procurement processes. So I would like to just stop here for a minute, and I'm going to take frequent stops just to allow for questions. Anybody wants to say hi, if you want to give me an idea of the geography of where you're located, of the type of nature of your business. And the more I know about who is participating, I can bring in examples that maybe align with your sector and or with your geography as well. So I just want to take a minute and through Lori, Chantal, thank you. But through Lori, if I can ask that you can filter through, and if there's questions that you may see that I don't see.
For sure. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Chantal?
Hi, Dan. It's great to meet you. I've been in business for about 13 years now, And a big part of what I do is deliver training to employers across Canada. I'm starting a new to me, because but it's been around for a bit, offering in 2026 called Cultivating Safe Spaces. So it's about helping employers learn how they can create workplaces where their employees feel safe and connected, and a sense of belonging, which leads to greater retention, to get down to the ROI thing for employers. So my question is the OECM portal the right place to register so that I can be recognized as somebody that all these wonderful schools, colleges, and universities can hire to deliver this training to them?
Chantel, I can answer that for you. And part of my answer will be direct and part of my answer will be indirect. And the indirect part I'll get into in a little bit more detail. So OECM has a number of agreements in place, and several of the agreements that we have in place are for training. Our particular area of focus on training happens to be currently in the area of IT training. But there's a significant growing area, and thanks for sharing the area that you're in, because this is a newer area that we're looking at, and this training aligns with components of HR focus that we're trying to bring. When we look at elements of ESGI, and I'll speak about that in a little bit more. These are areas of mutual collaborative opportunity that we're seeing. So we may not currently have agreements in place. And if you go to OECM Marketplace, just type in OECM Marketplace, it brings you to a directory. And within that directory, there are 19 pages of agreements that we have in place, and it will show you all 19. And you will see that there are training components in there, but right now our training components is heavily focused on IT areas. Part of what category that you fit in, and I'll expand on this a little bit more, is that public procurement is based on thresholds. So one of the questions that come up often is, how do I do this? And my answer often is a question back is, well, how much money do you think that we are spending? And the reason why that is that a lot of our actions in public procurement are triggered by certain dollar thresholds. So at this line in the sand and greater, we must do these steps. At this line in the sand and under, we're allowed more freedom, more flexibility, and we only have to do these steps. So in terms of training, and often training falls into this category, is that if the dollar transaction of training for this particular area is, I'll use $100,000 and less, we can be very surgical who we do business with. But if our spend on training is going to be $100,000 and greater, then we are required to administer certain processes that I'll get into that don't allow us to be as surgical. So sorry for being a bit elusive, but hopefully that gives you some sense of direction. And we'll talk about those levels of threshold a little later on in the presentation. But thank you for the question.
You're not being elusive at all, Dan. You're sharing the knowledge of the situation as it is. And right now there isn't a category for what I do. And in the more the further explanation, because I'm not going to charge $100,000 for one training. I'd have to be looking at doing at least 50 trainings to hit the threshold, right? So it's helpful information, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Dan.
And I would add just my 2 cents in knowing what the demand is. I think you've identified a growing field, an important field, as we in procurement mature our processes and as HR mature their sensitivities in terms of supporting employees and peoples. I think you've picked an area of growth, so good on you.
Well,
Well,
and just one last thing here. The organization that certified me for the training is the one who should apply, because they easily do over $100,000 a year in training. Like they're tenfold higher than that. So thank you.
okay, excellent.
Dan.
Other questions or comments or introductions that people would like to make at all?
Yeah, Dan, there is a question. Is consulting services something you would also procure?
Absolutely, yes. Consulting services is something that it doesn't matter, honestly, whether I've been in the private sector, public sector, or with this provincial organization. Consulting services are frequently bought and purchased. So the answer is yes. It has always been a strong field. And I think I'll rub my crystal ball a little bit. I think it's a growing field as well. So depending on the particular area that you're in, like with Chantal, and she spoke about the area that she's in, I think that's a growing field. I think IT is somewhat of a growing field, but there is some stabilization and plateauing in that area right now a bit. But what it is many areas within organizations have lost a lot of senior people. When I walked out the door, there's 40 years of experience that walked out the door. And that's being replaced by new, highly educated, energetic individuals coming in, but they don't have the seasoning and the wisdoms. And to complement and to fill those voids, more and more organizations and areas are turning to third-party consultants to help them. It could be helping in project management. It could be helping in certain areas. So as a generalized comment, I think it's a strong field and a growing field. Other questions or comments?
No, nothing else in the chat.
Okay. So just from the image and the collage, I strongly want to encourage you as a component of your marketing portfolio and your business portfolio, do look and encourage you to do business with public entities, and public being federal, provincial, and locally. In terms of complexities, it's scalable as well. To learn your public procurement rules locally or regionally, I'll maybe use that term, is easier because you've got actual bodies within your geography. You can reach out, you can call them, you can make an appointment, you can go see them. When you scale up to working with the province or the federal government, almost everything is done online, and you don't have that easy ability to set up appointments, and you have to follow more stringent rules. But again, the amount of money that we spend is huge. And I'm encouraging you to learn more about public procurement. So today I'm going to talk about the rules, and I'm going to share a little bit about the environment where I come from. And the reason why I'm taking this approach is the more you know about what we're required to do will help you be successful in terms of using this knowledge to be successful in gaining business with public entities. Karen, next slide, please. So I've got a couple slides here, and Chantal asked a question that I want to spend a bit more time now to do a deeper dive. Public procurement is filled with rules, and I will tell you that it is getting more complex month by month by month right now. It is one of the most complex times and changing times that I have ever seen in public procurement. It's exciting. It's kind of wild. It started with the beginning of COVID, where our Minister of Health called it the Wild West of procurement. And she was very accurate when she made that statement. And it hasn't ended. And with what's going on with tariffs, and we'll speak about that a little bit later on, the knowledge and the rules that are coming out are changing rapidly. And so I want you to share a little bit, I wanted to share a little bit more about our environment. So we're looking to buy something. And it doesn't matter if it's a good or service, but we're looking to buy something. And then how do we do that? How do we find you? How do we find your business? And how do we do business with you while adhering to the rules? And what are the rules? So I'm going to share a little bit more about the rules. And I use the term rules as a generalized, honestly, I kind of use it as a slang. So when I talk about public procurement rules, it's a collage, a gathering of various requirements that we have to follow. And it's often based on dollar threshold. So like I did with Chantel, one of my first questions when people ask me questions is, I ask how much money are we talking about, because different rules come into place at different levels. So, for example, if you are buying at a federal level, they have something called the Directive on the Management of Procurement. And this directive sets out the rules of how federal governments are to buy. And there is a whole series of steps that go along with that. And so at a federal level, they have very specific rules and requirements. And one of the rules that they've come up with, and some of you may be familiar with this, some may not, but the federal government has said that at least 5% of total contract spend needs to be with Indigenous companies, and Indigenous being Indigenous First Nations, Métis, or Inuit. And so what they look at is they look at their contract spend of $50 billion, and 5% of that is $2.5 billion. So they look at a minimum base spend of $2.5 billion with Indigenous businesses. So these are prescriptive directives that are coming down. And this is newer. This has been in place for about the last 3 years now. And we're waiting to see, the province of Ontario is looking and assessing, other organizations are looking and assessing. This is the first time, though, that we've had a government entity put a number on the table. We have seen often where governments say, I'll use it as a slang way of saying it, but I call them warm and fuzzy words. So the province of Ontario tells its ministry, give it your best efforts to do business with ESG related companies and Indigenous companies. And so they will say words that sound nice. And I call them warm and fuzzy words. But what does it mean, give it your best efforts? And what is different today than there was before is the federal government has now taken those warm and fuzzy words and put a number to it. There's a number of complaints. I've read a number of problems at the federal level, but one of the things that I will give them is that they're trying to do something. Has there been failures and has there been missteps? Absolutely, yes. But it's the first entity that I've seen put something on the table. They are trying to measure and they're trying to be held accountable. And there are lots of organizations that have said warm and fuzzy words. And many of you, are heavily engaged in ESG related activities, and you'll see exactly exactly what I'm talking about. But how many people make their evaluation criteria with a specific level, like 5% or 10% of your awards related to ESG and Indigenous? So there is change that's underway. The federal government is somewhat leading it. People are looking at that. So those are some of the rules that are in place. Those are some of the warm and fuzzy guidelines. Certainly, most everybody has heard about various trade agreements. And I want to take a moment, and many people are not aware that within Canada, coast to coast to coast, we have an agreement on internal trade, AIT, for those that may have heard that term before. And so up until recently, and then this is tied into the speed of change that's going on. Up until recently, provinces didn't like to do business across the border. And Ontario didn't like to do business with Quebec, and Alberta was reluctant to do business with BC. And so what they did, they've put in place barriers so that it is difficult for labor to move. If you're a certified tradesperson in this province, are you equally certified as a tradesperson in this province? If you're distilling liquor or alcohol in this province, can you move alcohol that's prepared in this province to this province? And up until recently, there has been some pretty significant barriers under AIT. Many and most people honestly knew little of this. As a public procurement person, we were fully aware of it. But what's happening now is there is more change and more conversation underway than ever before. Premiers are having conversations, and there's meetings literally underway about removing barriers. And there is a clear focus to try and protect and promote Canadian sourced products and services, and let's remove restrictions within our own country. So we have currently something called AIT, but there is significant conversation underway about removing or minimizing those barriers. So watch that as we go forward. I think many or most of you have all heard of the Canada EU trade agreement. CETA is often, what you hear about. CETA remains in place, and it's an encouragement of a group of countries to do business together. Now, these various trade agreements are often based on dollar threshold, meaning that if you're going to buy something of this value or less, these are the rules. And if you're going to buy something of this value or greater, these are the rules. So under CETA, government is required to do certain things. And in this case, when I use the term government, I mean local governments, provincial governments, and federal governments. We all fall under this agreement. And what it roughly says is that if the purchase of a good or service, and I'm going to slightly generalize because the numbers change slightly, but if the value of your purchase is $220,000 and greater, then you must publicly advertise your procurement. It needs to be posted on a public procurement portal, and you must have it listed for a certain length of time so that countries that are part of these agreements have the opportunity to look at it and bid on it and have their bid accepted. So under international trade agreements, being it CETA or whatever of the Asia agreement, and our prime minister is looking at setting other agreements in place, they will all have thresholds. At this dollar threshold and greater, there is obligation to do certain things. And those thresholds are what we look at because as a public procurement person, because at this level and above, we have no freedom. We must do these. And at this level and below, we have more freedoms. And this is consistent with all trade agreements. Kind of want to stop right there because I've talked about federal, I've talked about Indigenous, talked about trade agreements, both Canada and international. Does that spark any questions people may have on that? Very important to understand that impact on public procurement.
There is a question in the chat. Chantel is asking, what does the province look at for proof of Indigenous ownership? Does our business have to be, does our business have to be registered with CCIB, Canadian Council of Indigenous Business?
So, Chantal, great question again. Part of the challenge that's happened, and it's extremely unfortunate, but it is happening, is that there are efforts being made to do business with Indigenous businesses. People are sincerely trying to do something, and they are trying to reach out and do business with Indigenous businesses, and so contracts are being awarded. And what has been uncovered is that when a business has said that I am an Indigenous business, in fact, when somebody's done an investigation, it's been revealed that they are not an Indigenous business, or that they may have an Indigenous component, but it is a very minor component. And so you hear the terms like red washing, pretendian, and some other unfortunate words that have been created because there are games being played and people are trying to attain contracts somewhat fraudulently. I'll kind of call it the way I see it. They misrepresent who they are and pretend that they are something that they are not. And so because we are now aware of this, we are seeking third parties to verify that company ABC who claims to be an Indigenous business is in fact an Indigenous business. So building on Chantel's question is that governments now are more turning to third parties to manage the verification process. There's third parties out there, such as Canadian Council on Indigenous Business, CCIB, that if you are registered with them, they will do a background check to verify that, in fact, yes, this is a real Indigenous business and that it's 51% or greater owned and significantly managed by Indigenous. So that's a third party entity. Governments don't like to do their own verification because it's onerous, complex, and who are we to say whether you're an Indigenous business or not? We don't have the knowledge and the skills. So we turn to third parties to do that for us. And that's what's happening. So at a federal level or provincial level, you'll find that there is movement underway to verify that a claim that is being made is in fact truthful. And CCIB is one of them. There is one at a federal level. And there's a newer movement in Ontario through the Ontario Chiefs. The Ontario Chiefs are creating an Indigenous business directory at a province-wide level. And they're looking to release this verification program in the end of Q1 2026. So this is a newer area, and it is an effort as governments are trying to do business with Indigenous businesses to verify that, in fact, you're not playing a game, you're not making something, puffing is a marketing term, to make it more than what it is. So right now, there is a number of organizations that are being used to verify. And when we speak about Indigenous, it's not just First Nations, but it is Métis. Métis have been recognized as well, provincially and federally. And so a verification program is underway by MNO, it's called Métis Nations of Ontario, and also the Inuit as well. We generally don't have a lot of Inuit businesses. We have one that we're doing business with, but that is so a separate category. So there's Indigenous, there's Métis, and there's Inuit. Inuit, and these are three different categories. And there are third-party verification programs out there that are being utilized. Absolutely, yes. Other questions, Lori, that may have come in?
There's two more.
Okay.
Pam was asking best places to stay up to date on all of these changes, like interprovincial trade.
I have to stay on top of it through multiple sources because it is changing so rapidly. I wish I could direct you to one location, but because there are so many balls in the air at the moment, and I'll give you a couple examples. So at the premier level, there is conversations underway about modifying the rules of AIT. That's one change that's underway. I think everybody is aware that given any week, there are threats of tariff changes. It is that rapid. There are changes that are underway right now. There's movement at a federal level to either rebuild or build in advance agreements with India, and so I can't point you to one locations for information. Ontario Public Buyers tries to stay on top of stuff, and they have a forum that of information that is somewhat updated, but just watch the news in general. And when you see conversations underway about trade agreements and other things, just know behind the scenes that somebody has to interpret these warm and fuzzy words into rules. And so when you speak of this directive or you speak of this agreement, that agreement has to be packaged up, put in writing, and within that written package are policies that we have to operationalize. And you can see the complexity that comes along with that. So sorry, there is not one location. It's multiple, but be aware that there is significant and rapid change underway.
Okay, and then one more question Gabriella has is how to approach public procurement to offer services in value that is less than the threshold.
So the flexibility that we have as public procurement entities is one of the lower the dollar amount, the greater autonomy and the greater flexibility that we have. So under the broader BPS procurement directive, which is set at $120,000, we can do by invitation at least 3 quotes. So this ties into relationship building. And this is what I say to Paro members: get to know your procurement people, get to know your departments, get to know your customers, because if the purchase is under this amount of money, we can go to you and we can ask for a bid. Now, often it says at least 3 quotes. And then if you look at policies, so for example, a policy may say at $20,000 or $10,000, we can get a single quote and do business. So if it's a small training engagement and it's only $10,000, we can go to company A and we can ask them to undertake the work for us. But if it's an $80,000 project, I have to go to company A, company B, company C. I have to get at least 3 bids. And that's where, if I know, and this is where Pero has been very helpful for me, if I know some businesses that I would like to support, I can choose to go to whomever I want to. So at the lower dollar thresholds, procurement people and departments have wonderful choices to do business who we want to. But at certain dollar thresholds and greater, we have to publicly make it available, and we do not know the outcome of that process. So Gabriella has asked a wonderful question. How do we get to know them? This is about relationship building, and this is an area that I say is not being done very well today. Relationship building is becoming quickly a lost art, and I would say there's been dramatic change pre and post COVID. If you want to learn how to sell to a municipality or a school board or college, you need to find out who the procurement people are in that entity. And the nice thing about it, that entity is usually in your community, and you can go out and see them. Relationships are so important, because if I have the ability to get at least 3 quotes, who am I going to turn to? I'm going to turn to either organizations I know and or suppliers who I know. And I want you to come and say hi to me. I want to learn about you. I want to listen to who you are. I want to hear your story, so that I have the opportunity to do business with you if something comes up. And so take time to go onto websites, take time to learn who your key people are. There's no magic in that. And it's an important aspect, I think, of marketing that is being lost today. Relationship building is so important, especially if you want to do business with Indigenous communities and Indigenous organizations. It's all about relationships. Karen, next slide, please. So I'm going to bypass this one a little bit here, because this is, again, more of the rules. Now, one of the rules that we talk about, and I'm going to generalize, there is movement underway at a federal level and a provincial level to do business within Canada and to do business within Ontario. And the governments are putting in place rules that public procurement people have to follow to do business, both federally by Canadian, by Ontario, and certainly you see more and more about buying regionally. Next slide. So how do you do business? So this is based on dollar thresholds. So if it's X amount of dollars and under, I can go and get my own quotes directly from suppliers I choose. But if it's this amount or greater, we have to use an open public procurement process. Federal government uses a portal called Canada Buys. The Ontario government uses a portal called Ontario Tenders, or OTP, Ontario Tenders Portal. And so these are centralized locations that you can go and you can see what the federal government wants to buy. You can see what the provincial government wants to buy. And you are required to register, to tell the story of who you are and what you're about. And then once you're a registered bidder or vendor, you can select categories of goods and services that you would like to be informed about. So at a provincial and federal level, there's a central registry that you need to fill out and to become a certified bidder. And you need to fill out these forms. And that's the same with other provinces as well. Whether you're in BC, Saskatchewan, way up north, they have centralization at a provincial and federal level. One of the difficulties, though, is at a more regional level because we in municipal government are not told how we need to make available our procurements. So I was surprised that we could choose whomever we wanted, but we are required to use a public procurement portal. There are probably the most popular one at a regional level is called Bids and Tenders. Many of you are familiar with that. Many of you are familiar with Merck's. So it is not one-stop shopping. And sorry, for regional procurements, there are several different organizations that promote and publish that, but it is more centralized at a provincial and federal level. Kind of I caught wind of some chats here. Lori, I wonder if you can ask what the questions are there.
Yeah, for sure. I think Gabriella, did you want me to ask this question? Like it wasn't clear, right?
No. Chantal put a message there, ask if I was talking about reaching out to Indigenous folks,
Yeah.
and that implies that I was talking about procurement representatives. So I just answered to Chantal. It was not an additional question.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I just want to make sure. Okay.
Thank you so much for answering my question then, because it was really useful. It really gave me ideas what to do. Thank you.
Okay.
Well,
But, you
excellent.
know, then there's no other questions in the chat, Dan.
Okay. And that's what I really like. And, you know, I'll share you my thoughts. I mean, I'll tell you what the rules are, but I'll give you my opinions on things. And you know, I'm never shy. So please ask questions and I'll be as open and honest because I would like to see each one of you be as successful as you can. You bring great value. And I want to make sure that you and your companies are recognized and have the ability to bring that value to government procurement. So that's very helpful for me. Karen, next slide, please. So I've spoken about this, you know, quite extensively, but I want to say in my 40 years of procurement, I have never seen a period of such rapid change as what's underway right now. I know that you're all familiar with what's going on in the news media. You know, I can't help but feel the difficulty for many businesses that are being affected both positively and negatively. And I can't tell you what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks because it's unprecedented. But for all of these things that are being said, if they get implemented, and that's a big word because there's a lot of hollow words being said right now, but if it gets implemented, these are the rules that I'm speaking about, then that gets pushed down to people like myself in the public procurement to follow those rules. So right now, what the difficulty is separating out threats and hollow words with specific actions and specific tariffs and other barriers that may be put in place. And this is not unilateral. This is a two-way street because, for example, there are threats being made by the province of Ontario that are being made as well too. So we are doing the best we can to monitor these, but then we have to follow along to see what actual directives are being passed by legislation. So just to know that these are very uncertain times. And much like I spoke about the provinces talking to each other now, there's been more traction in the last 6 months than in the last 6 years. So just keep an eye on the news and separate out words of threats to specific actions because that separates what we do in public procurement. Karen,
Dan?
next slide.
Oh, sorry. And
Yep.
Dan, Gabriella said immigrant-owned business is considered a special category in public procurement, like Indigenous business is the question, because immigrant Immigrants are an important part of the Canadian population, and so are immigrant-owned businesses.
I would say 100% agree. I have worked very closely to explore women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, Indigenous businesses. There is incredible value in all of these areas that they bring to the table. And you're right; these are areas. The term we often hear is ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And social inclusion is an area of growing consideration and growing importance. Now, I say growing because what I do see is that there are a lot of people and organizations saying warm and fuzzy words. Yes, they are important, and yes, but are they walking the talk? And Gabriella, are they looking for actual change on how they make decision making? And to give you an example of what I'm speaking about, if you've responded to an RFP, request for proposal, before, you will see within an RFP there are a number of stated decision criteria. Tell me about your price, tell me about your experience, tell me about your qualification. Price is worth 30 points, experience is worth 20 points, qualification is worth 20 points. And so that is a prescription based on proportional allocation of points to what the real decision making is. So is one of the evaluation criteria, and it may be labeled as social considerations, and then it defines social as inclusive of LGBTQ, women-owned, and so look at that, and have they assigned points? If it's 2 or 3 points, honestly, it's tokenism. If it's 10 or 15 points, now we're talking about influencing the outcome of a decision. So when people speak of these things, it's fine to put warm and fuzzy words because you got to start somewhere. But are they including that in their decision criteria? And is the decision points of enough substance to influence the outcome of a decision? And that's the transition that's happening. I would say today there are a lot of people saying nice things, but look at their RFPs and have they converted that? So I'll bring it home to OECM. Right now, our consideration of, we call it ESG, environmental, social governance, and the I is for Indigenous, is now 15% of our awarded criteria. So we have moved it from tokenism to something that can influence the outcome of a decision. And that's what you want to look at. And that's where you want to push companies and governments to say, you're saying these nice words, but yet you're not walking the talk in your decision criteria. And organizations like Paro, can help champion those changes. Gabriel, sorry, it's a bit roundabout, but hopefully I've answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Karen, next slide. I won't spend any more time on this. Gabriella's question segued very well into this. But my point is, are they walking the talk? And is the amount of points enough to fundamentally influence the outcome of a decision? And that's an important consideration. Karen, next slide. When we speak about ESG, we at OECM use ESGI because we are very purposefully trying to enhance our inclusion of Indigenous. I was on a meeting this morning with Indigenous suppliers. and that you will find, as I spoke about, the government of Canada has set a requirement of 5%. And many other municipalities, City of Toronto is looking at an Indigenous procurement policy. Others are trying to follow suit. So there is a significant change underway right now. And I've asked many Indigenous elders, do they believe that there is change? And generalizing, people are feeling that there is something that's happening. There's still a lot of warm and fuzzy words, but some of these are being changed into measurable action. So I would expand that to say all social matters are being enhanced for consideration much more than they were 5 years ago. Next slide, Karen. So what we have done is we've tried to move beyond warm and fuzzy words, because I get concerned about that as a procurement person. We hear this, and honestly, when somebody tells me to give it my best efforts, that tells me that there's no guidance, that I'm not required to do anything if I don't want to. In many cases, I've chosen to, but I don't have to. So what OECM has done is we've met with many, many Indigenous suppliers and communities, and we have learned that they don't know how to become exposed to public buyers. And so we have created an Indigenous supplier directory, and we now have 41 suppliers that we've qualified through a process to become part of our Indigenous Supplier Partnership Program. And we are making this list available to our over 1,500 members. So if you are seeking to find an Indigenous supplier, you can go to our directory to find one and seek quotes from them. And this is where I applaud Pero in the work and effort that has been done before, because I was asking for how do I find this and how do I find that in terms of organizations and businesses through Pero, and they have created and posted a methodology to find suppliers. So as more and more public procurement people are becoming more knowledgeable and asking and seeking bids from, we have to figure out who and where do we go and who's out there. And these directories are becoming more and more important. So thank you to Pero for being proactive on doing something. Karen, next slide. So I wanted to take just a couple of quick minutes to speak about changes that are happening, because changes that are happening on my end affect you on your end as a seller. We are losing people significantly. There is an incredible amount of people that we've lost during the pandemic and post-pandemic. There's that retirement group that I fall into, but I still managed to somehow hang on. There is more increased legalization. There is directives. There is legislation coming down. We used to have 3 or 4 balls in the air that us as procurement people would juggle. It was experience, qualification, and price. Those would be the 3 things that we would try and balance. And now we are considering environmental, we are considering sustainability, we're considering regional, local economic development, we are considering social considerations. So now instead of 3 main balls, we have 6 or 8 balls in the air, in addition to buying the good or service. So our decision-making process is becoming much more complex. Procurement portals, both have been good and bad. It is a 50-50 tool. There are people that are seeking and obtaining business that they would have never seen before. But conversely, you are now up against competition that you've never had before because of these. I spoke earlier about the loss of relationship building. I can't speak enough about getting out, getting to know your procurement people, doing that legwork, and getting to build those relationships. When I'm in trouble and I have an emergency, who am I going to turn to? I'm going to turn to people I trust, people that have done things for me before, that I know when I say they're going to do it, they're going to do it, and they'll come through for me. And that is invaluable. And I can't say enough about getting out and building that relationship. Automation and artificial intelligence, it just intimidates me to no end on good things and bad things that I think are going to change. I used to be able to read an RFP submission and I could tell a fair amount about the company based on the quality of the submission. I read submissions today that are 100% outstanding, and it doesn't reflect who the real company is anymore. So how do I, as a decision maker, I've got 5 outstanding submissions in front of me that have been done through AI that are borderline untruthful anymore. And how do I make that decision? And you can see the complexities there, and you're up against that. So those are the challenges that we face today. I don't have answers for that, but that's the environment that we're in. And I think last slide, Karen. Want to kind of open it up. I've shared a lot of information. This past hour went by very fast. Want to say thank you. And certainly reach out through Paro if you've got questions. I think Lori was looking to schedule a follow-up session in February where we can spend a bit more time and do a deeper dive into some areas that you may want. But based on our conversation today, any follow-up questions, any thoughts, opinions at all?
If anybody has any questions, feel free. You could unmute yourself, ask any questions that you have. That's good too. Pam said that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Pam.
Yeah, it was really great. I learned a lot about public procurement that I didn't know before. I have a question. Is it okay if we email you directly if you have a question, if you want kind of to get your input on something, or you're too busy, is not part of what you're doing?
Gabriel, one of the things I've always tried to do is be accessible. I believe to spend public monies, we can't hide. And on the presentation, and I provided my presentation at Paro, is my direct email address. So please feel free at any time to reach out. Hopefully you get a sense today. I share information, but I'm not shy on giving opinions as well.
Thank you so much.
Does anybody else have any other question?
Want to say thank you. Please reach out. And again, thank you to Karen and Lori and Paro for helping to facilitate today's session. And if you don't mind, for those that are here, if you can leave some ideas on, and it would be helpful for me if you want a deeper dive into any particular areas, because I believe the more you know about how we make decisions, I think it will help you as a business person to understand our process and be more successful. So if you don't mind, if you can share some ideas and areas that you would like to learn more on my next session, I'll do that deeper dive for you. Thank you all. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like if there anybody here, if there are areas that you would like to, did you want them to email you, Dan, or do you want them to email me and I could forward information, or?
Whatever works best. I take emails direct,
Okay,
or if you think it's something that would interest Paro, certainly keep them abreast. I'd see a message on LinkedIn. Chantel, I'm not big on LinkedIn, so I apologize. I'm kind of old school. I want to get to know you. I don't want to get to know people through LinkedIn. I don't follow that to any great degree. I don't need to advance my career. Just email me directly and I'll get back to you directly. It all builds into my belief about relationships.
Well, thank you so much, Dan. We really appreciate you providing us all this information. And we do look forward to the next part. So thank you so much for coming and presenting today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And if there's no other questions, then I wish everybody a great day.
How about
All right, thanks, everybody.
a
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.